important announcement from HealthSpan. Not all supplements are created equal. Well, no, they're not. You see, we think it's important to take care of your health every day. Our multivitamins contain just the right levels of vitamin C and D to help support your immune system and are specially tailored for different life stages. And we deliver them direct to your door because that's the HealthSpan way. Well, there you go. That didn't take long, did it? We're HealthSpan. That's healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements direct to your door.
At NatWest, we're putting our money where your business is. We've set aside £5 billion of working capital funding for our customers and have already lent over £3 billion to businesses like yours. So if you bank with NatWest and COVID-19 has affected your business, remember, every one of us is here to support you. Search NatWest Business Coronavirus.
Figures for RBS Group. Security may be required. Over 18s only. Subject to status. Business use only. Product fees may apply.
This is an important message from the government. For now, we must all still stay at home. It can be hard, but it's making a difference. So please keep going for the ones you love. Keep going for every key worker on the front line as they keep going for us. Keep going because together we will beat the virus. For all of you making sacrifices every day, thank you. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
Clive Bull on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
LBC, I'm Clive Bull. I'm asking, should it be time to ease the lockdown? And in which case, how far would you go? What would you do to get people back to work? And do you think the public are ready for that? Are you at all nervous about it, or are you can't wait to get out there onto that crowded tube train? 0345 6060 973. And I want to talk about this issue of ages as well. Should there be different rules for people of different ages? 0345 6060 973. And if you are at work at the moment, or perhaps furloughed and going back to work, how safe is your workplace at the moment? And what would need to change? Let's talk to Gypsy in Cranbrook. Hello, Gypsy.
Hello.
Hello.
I listened to the program all the time. It's great.
Good.
I'm of the age 76, so I've been in
Right.
lockdown. But I have no underlying problems, so basically just age.
Yes.
And I think all of us now feel, how dare they discriminate? Don't do that. They might, I think we'll.
Well, when you say you're in lockdown, what have you actually been doing?
I'm just isolating. But
You're
having said that,
totally not staying in, totally not seeing anybody?
I'm
Or
not
are you seeing people?
I go out every day.
Oh, hang on, then you're not totally self-isolated. You're going to get the virus. Right, okay. Well, you're doing the same as everybody else. Excellent. Yes. Well, I mean, to be honest, you're not being discriminated against. You're just doing what everybody else is doing.
At the minute, I'm talking about
Yes.
when they released the lockdown,
Oh, I see.
talking
Right.
about being held for an extra 12 weeks. And that's what I'm objecting to. Being lumped, for one thing, being lumped in a group, And, I mean, Esther Ransom said, I had her talking into you yesterday, I think, and she said it shouldn't be diktat. If they did that nicely, please, would you mind?
Yeah.
For a bit longer,
Well,
it would really help.
I agree with that. But I think that is what they're doing. It's not a diktat. They've been very. The tone has been very much this is advice, and they're not saying over 70s should never go out. There is a group of people, the shielded group,
The tax is staying, yes, I agree.
that for their own good, and it's sensible. But there's a different set of advice. I think it was a bit of confusion because early on, and I remember the uproar at the time, they were talking about over 70s as if that was the same as the shielding group.
Yes.
And of course that wouldn't be right. But don't you feel, I mean, what's your natural reaction? Nobody wants to be told what to do, but is your gut feeling that you are doing the right thing consistency.
obviously working. There's no question.
Well,
it's the
exactly.
right thing.
Yes.
But I think our age group, even special doctors said of her father, you know, we object because we're of an age that
Yes.
once the lockdown released, that we should be held, you know, up for a week or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the longer bit, you know, please would you mind?
So as long as they ask
Very
nicely.
kind of you is.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it is ultimately for everybody's benefit, isn't it? I mean, isn't that the point? And I mean, although you sound a fit and healthy over 70-year-old, and there are many people over 70 who are probably very fit indeed, but the figures do show that you are far more likely to have a bad reaction if you're over 70. If you're over 80, it's even worse.
It was a death knell, definitely, and very
Yes.
convincing.
Yes.
But I'm definitely over very overweight, so, but,
Right. Well, that's a good reason for keeping it on the way.
she can't go out, she daren't go out because the roads are uneven and she might fall over. Mind you, I don't
Right.
yeah, so, but she actually hasn't been able to go out of the house for, you know, the whole time.
No, no. Well, a lot of people have been in that position, but as you say, it is working, and there is a group of people who are especially vulnerable, and there are still at the moment hundreds of people dying every day. So we need to remember that.
In a rural place like Cranbrook in Kent, we don't see it. We hear it all the time. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's very difficult, you know, because, I mean, it sounds absolutely appalling, but we don't see it.
No.
And I'll tell you something else
I know what you
interesting.
mean.
I have a buddy who lives in Hastings. They don't have it down there.
They don't have any coronavirus.
Corona.
Really?
His daughter works in a nursing home, and apparently they haven't got it in there.
Well,
They haven't had it.
long may it remain that way. What's the first thing if the easing happens? What's the one thing you want to do then that you can't do now? All right, well there we are then. You're happy. What you got deliveries of gin? What are you complaining about? Well, there we are. There's an upside. Gypsy, thank you very much indeed for that. Adam in Epping. Hello, Adam.
Good evening, Clive. Yeah,
Evening.
just a thing I'd like to talk about this. What I think is dreadful, shocking, inducing paranoia into the over 70s with a mere notion of locking them up for another 12 weeks. I mean, I think for a start, I think it's going to violate age discrimination laws and other human rights as well.
Yeah.
And if
It's
you
all a
look
bit
at-
dramatic the way you're saying that, locking them up. I mean, nobody's
Well,
locking anybody up.
Well, I think it is. If you have fear of arrest by leaving your house, effectively,
What?
you're locked up. Your liberty
Fear
is
of
at risk.
arrest.
put it
Who's
that
been
way.
arrested for leaving their house? Nobody.
Many people have
No,
been arrested
they
by
haven't been.
police. No, Finsbury Park. I know a couple of people that have been
But
arrested.
people
myself.
who've been, not for just leaving their house though, and not because they're over
well,
70.
with the elderly,
You're
the
being
fear
very
of it in
dramatic,
itself-
Adam, here,
Well, I'm
aren't
not being
you?
dramatic. I'm being realistic. The very notion of being, and let me tell you this, Clive, for a start. The studies of gerontology have always said that the age is something not necessarily chronological. It comes from biological. I'm in my 50s now. I was in the Falklands War nearly 40 years ago, but I can honestly say I'm fit to people half my age or even younger. And so that's a chronological thing. And
Well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The virus can attack people who are extremely fit, bodybuilders who died from it.
They do say this, but if you look at it like
But it's
a case,
true.
take Eddie Large, for example, press that he died of corona. The man was admitted
I'm
with
not talking about Eddie Large, I'm talking about very fit young people who've died, so it's not really to do with fitness. You may not, but that's hardly scientific, is it?
And it's also got science there. And the experience about this virus being spread by cross-infection is the biggest source of cross-infection. I think the place I saw the other day, walking around, I don't know how many
This is just advice.
You that some of the elderly people I know are in their house. I won't use the term incarcerated because that's wrong. But they're coming out for fear of being arrested.
That's ridiculous. That's absolutely. I am living in the real world, and that's absolutely ridiculous. The people in their 70s and 80s are not going out for fear of arrest. I think they're not going out for fear of catching a disease that could kill them, and they're following medical advice.
Well, let me tell you this. If what you're saying is true about lockdown working, how come in Sweden when they've had very little lockdown, they've had, well, here we go. Oh, yeah, so everybody you want to put me down, don't you? Here we go. Well, I'm going to say it anyway. We've got to unless you cut me off.
Well, I will do eventually. Everybody gets cut off.
I know you will, but exponentially.
Well, everybody has to, otherwise you go at midnight.
It's exponentially higher here than it has in Sweden, and they've had any of them have got some self-regulation.
Well, again,
Why would you say that?
I would say that is not true. That Sweden does have a form of lockdown, but they're more relaxed about it than we are. And the jury is definitely out on whether it has worked or not compared to other similar countries, other Scandinavian neighbours, for example. They have a higher death rate. So I don't think we'll know. I don't know. I don't think you know. I don't think I know, because we're in the middle of it at the moment. We could probably make a judgment on whether Sweden has worked or not, maybe in a year's time. Adam, thank you. Well, is he right there? Are you stuck at home for fear of being arrested? 0345 6060 973. This is LBC 630 and the news with Lucinda Horsley.
The government has defended a fall in the number of coronavirus tests being carried out each day. Latest data showed they dropped below 80,000 in the 24 hours to 9 o'clock this morning, after hitting the daily target of 100,000 at the end of April. But Senior Minister Michael Gove says fewer people going to work over the weekend may explain the dip. Across the UK, more than 28,400 people with COVID-19 have now died. That's a rise of 315 in hospitals, care homes and the wider community. More details on how the rules will be eased are expected from the Prime Minister in the next few days, but we're being warned to continue to adapt to the new normal and ensure the government's 5 tests are met. The weather cloudy for southern and eastern parts this evening, some showers for southeast Scotland and northeast England, clearer spells in the northwest, an overnight low of 5 degrees.
This is LBC.
This is a message from the government about the emergency measures to support the economy during a period of disruption caused by the coronavirus. To help you, your business and your workers affected, you can apply for cash grants, business rate holidays, statutory sick pay relief packages, as well as the coronavirus job retention and self-employment income support schemes. For information, go to gov.uk/business-support now.
At NatWest, we're putting our money where your business is. We've set aside £5 billion of working capital funding for our customers and have already lent over £3 billion to businesses like yours. So if you bank with NatWest and COVID-19 has affected your business, remember, every one of us is here to support you. Search NatWest Business Coronavirus.
Figures for RBS Group. Security may be required. Over 18s only. Subject to status. Business use only. Product fees may apply.
Like when you go through the kids' schoolwork, pretending you always knew the capital of Brunei is Bandar Seri Begawan, when really you're frantically scrolling through the internet with your phone under the table, hoping that they just think you're an absolute fountain of knowledge. Whatever you rely on the internet for, rely on TalkTalk to stay connected. TalkTalk for everyone.
This is an
973. Patricia in Hammersmith. Hello, Patricia.
Yes, hello, Clive.
Hi.
I'm glad at last to be on. Look, I'm 59, by the way, and just to let before was totally out of order. Everybody's doing a wonderful job trying to keep everything going. The thing that gets me is the total hypocrisy of the government. I just do not understand where they're at. If they're allowing, what is it, 500,000 people a week to come into this country without any tests, without any way to go, and they arrive at Heathrow and they have to go up to Scotland, how many people are they infecting along the way?
It's about 100,000 at the moment.
100, well, you think it was 1,500 a day, and then they said that they were bringing back Brits from abroad, and so there would be 400,000 the first week and 500,000 the second week. That was about 2-3 weeks ago. It's all gone very quiet. In fact, it went very quiet immediately after that. My thinking is that, without proper testing, now my friend in Australia can just pop up the road and have a test. My friend said she had a little headache, so she was going to go up the road and have a test to make sure she didn't have the virus. I was flabbergasted.
Yes. But, I mean, well, no, I agree, and I do personally feel that there should be tests at airports, absolutely, and I think there are going to be. The reason that they didn't before, I think they took their eye off the ball, and then there were just too many people. I mean, if they were to test 500,000 people coming into the country, that's half of the entire tests that have been done in the country already.
They didn't seem to have the equipment.
There's a million people working in the NHS, so half of them haven't been tested.
But they could have taken their temperatures.
Well, they could have done, and I feel probably should have done, and they're going to. I think once the numbers are smaller, and it makes a bigger difference. Whereas I think at the peak there were just so many people that a few more thousand coming in who may or may not have. I'm not sure. That's the argument anyway. That it wouldn't have really made much difference.
Tourists coming in.
Well, it's mostly not tourists. There's virtually no tourists coming in at the
Virtually
moment.
no tourism. We've got empty hotels and they're all out of business. Well, they could have been taking in the people who were coming from these
Well, they
places.
won't come anyway. And the rule is, I think what's going to happen is that the rule is going to be that you have to have a 2-week quarantine period, and most of the world seems to have that already now. So I don't see there's going to be any tourists at all, because nobody's going to want to go on holiday and then quarantine for 2 weeks. So I think
Hundreds of thousands of people who were coming in and not isolating and going straight into the population. That was probably okay while we were all isolating ourselves. But if we get let out and it carries on, then we will have an
I take your point. I mean, I think it was pretty appalling, especially in the early days, that there were no checks whatsoever. And I do think that's going to change, especially as the numbers come down. Patricia, thank you very much for that. 0345 6060 973. Let's talk next to Peter Openshaw, who's a professor of experimental medicine at Imperial College London, former president of the British Society for Immunology. Peter, good evening to you.
Good evening, thank you.
In terms of the easing of the lockdown, first of all, how do you feel about that? Is it the right time? Is it going to be a very, very slow process?
I think it's very important that we don't do this too quickly. That we've all put in such a huge amount of effort in getting the number of cases down. That it's not just the people in the NHS and so on, but it's everyone working together. The whole of the UK society has been working together to bring the rate down. And what we mustn't do is throw that away by easing off the lockdown too fast. And I think taking off the brakes very gently in specific areas where we don't think it's going to make a huge difference is what we have to do at the moment. But it's terribly difficult to really control an infection like this when so much of the transmission is happening from people who don't even know that they've got the infection. People who are yet to develop symptoms, that's people who are incubating the virus, but also people who have no symptoms at all and may be passing it on without even knowing it. With that,
do you think there are a lot of people in the country who've had it and don't even realise?
That does seem to be the case, yes. It seems to be all the research which is coming out is showing that having an infection and being able to pass it on doesn't necessarily mean that you've had symptoms. And that's a real problem. It's so easy to control an outbreak when you can obviously see that somebody is ill. But when transmission is happening before symptoms develop or from people who don't have any symptoms at all, then that makes it really hard. And
it would be really useful to know that, wouldn't it, to have an actual idea of the number of people who've had it? I mean, is there testing going on to find out?
Absolutely. It's one of the top priorities at the moment is to get the antibody tests up and running and to check that they're absolutely reliable. And that's a very intense area of research at the moment. But until we've got that information, it's very, very hard to judge. And of course, not everyone who gets infected seems to actually develop antibody, depending on the test that's being done. There may be quite a high proportion, especially of those who have mild illness, who don't actually develop antibody and who you wouldn't know from the blood test have actually been infected. So there are big problems with detecting all of those infections. And of course, many people who get the infection and may be infectious won't have a fever. So screening for raised temperature at airports isn't a very good discriminatory test. It will pick up people who have things like urinary tract infections or flu or other causes of fever. So there's a lot of people going to be designated as suspicious when in fact they've got something else wrong with them. And of course it will miss a lot of people who do have the coronavirus and might be infectious. So it's not a good test, actually. That's the reason that it hasn't been brought in at airports.
What's your view on this over 70s issue? Is there a big factor, an age factor in this disease?
Absolutely correct, yes. The study which I'm glad to be part of, the ISRIC 4C study, has just been reporting the age profile of those who end up in hospital, and it really is a major factor that being over 60, particularly over 70, as you go up the age groups, the severity of disease gets worse and worse. And by the time you're in your 80s, the potential mortality is really very high indeed. So this isn't being discriminatory on the basis of age. It's the virus hitting people who are older much harder.
What would you say to somebody who says, well, I'm in my 70s, but I'm extremely fit. Might be fitter than a 30-year-old.
Yes. Well,
why should I stay in?
Yes, it's not a matter of fitness. It really is a matter of age. So just being in an older age group puts you at very high risk of serious disease. It's not a matter of fitness. And I think it's important also to recognise that if you're a fighter, you won't fight it off any better than somebody who's not a fighter. It's not a matter of psychology. It's not a matter of physical fitness. It's a matter of it's the predictors are age and pre-existing illness, things like high blood pressure or other cardiac disease or diabetes.
So if we do start to ease things, it's hard to see quite how it's going to work, but presumably the risk is that there's going to be another wave. I noticed that the 5 tests have slightly changed, and the last one now says we don't want a second wave that overwhelms the NHS. And then today, Steve Powis added to that and said, we don't want a second wave and the R going above 1. So how much of a risk is there? I mean, presumably there will be a second wave of some kind.
Well, it's a matter of whether it's going to be a wave or a series of wavelets or maybe 3 or 4 waves.
Right.
These epidemics do tend to go in waves, and we saw that, for example, going back to the 2009 influenza pandemic. There were 2 pandemic waves and 1 post-pandemic wave, and the 3rd wave was actually the biggest of the 3 in terms of the number of cases who went into hospital. Now, this isn't an influenza, but it's quite likely that the same sort of pattern might be seen again. And what we need to do is to try some measures which we think can be introduced with relative safety, and then wait a while and see whether the spreading goes up and whether the rate of spread can be held down particularly by increasing the number of tests that are done by contact tracing. And if that can be done very effectively with relatively few cases circulating in the community, then that would allow greater easements. But we have to be cautious.
Yes. I was looking at a graph of the 100 years ago of the Spanish flu, and the first wave was pretty bad, and then about 6 months later the second wave is enormous.
Yes.
Far bigger than the first. Is there a danger that that could happen, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think we are learning a lot more about this virus, almost day by day. There's a huge amount of research being done on this. A lot of universities have shut down all research except that on COVID-19. And papers are pouring out. Every day new research appears in the literature, which is incredible to see just what an enormous mobilization of research capacity there's been. So we're learning a lot more about how it's transmitted, how the virus behaves, but every day is bringing new surprises, new ways in which the disease is manifest, new ways in which it appears to be affecting different organs in some unfortunate people. So I think the more we can delay this, the more likely it is that we can come up with new treatments which either attack the virus or which reduce the impact of the immune response to the virus, which can be very damaging, particularly in the later stages of disease. So the longer we can delay this, the better the chances that we can really control it and reduce the mortality, which is unfortunately very high still.
Peter, thank you very much indeed. Peter Uppenshaw joining us, Professor of Experimental Medicine at Imperial College London. This is LBC. More calls in just a moment. This is it's 6:45.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7.
Nick Thomas Simmons, who's Shadow Home Secretary. Obviously, I'm sure you and all your colleagues celebrate the news that we're past the peak and we're emerging from an alpine tunnel, but how is it to be done there? Would you support regional variations?
They all have positives and negatives, Nick, to them, every single one of these options.